Hi witchlings, it's your local chaotic witch aunt here, and today we are going through my tarot decks, my recommended decks for beginners, intermediate readers, advanced readers, and my absolute, favorite decks. I did a video called Meet My Tarot Decks about a year ago. I will link it right now, and my tarot style has changed a lot since then. I've been successfully running a tarot reading business for almost a year now. I'm actually going on a little hiatus over the summer and I'll be back in the fall. I have that information linked in my bio. If you want to support me, the best way to continue to support me, or just support me in general, is to sub to my Patreon. There are some tiers that still have availability that do 1 card pulls monthly and 15-minute readings monthly, and then there's a 30-minute guidance session that could also be a tarot session if you want it to be, and that happens monthly as well. But yeah, getting started, I'm going to start with my absolute favorite go-to decks, and I will kind of give the rating of where I feel they fall on beginner to advanced readers. If I say that a deck is advanced, it doesn't mean that you can't get it as a beginner. It may be a little harder to learn either because it deviates away from the normal kind of Rider-Waite imagery and structure. Let's say the wands are represented by feathers, the swords are represented by arrows, so on and so forth, or it just doesn't have a guidebook. One of my favorite decks that I always use is the Line Define Tarot. I rate this advanced mostly because it doesn't have a guidebook. It's not super different from, I guess, what we would consider the traditional Rider-Waite structure. It still has pentacles, wands, swords, and cups, and all the same numbers, but as you can tell, the imagery doesn't really give a lot. There isn't a lot of interpretation here. You can kind of go into it a little bit. Here's the 3 of Cups. It has this as a back and some lovely gold trim. I usually use this pretty frequently. My friend recommended it to me because it has biblically accurate angel vibes and it takes heavy influences from the Hermetic Tarot. I don't work with the Hermetic Tarot, but I do work with the Line Defined. Like I said, I consider this more advanced. It has heavy alchemical imagery and a lot of kind of geometric shapes in it. I very much enjoy it, and it's one of my favorites and one of my go-to decks for most readings. Another go-to deck I have that I consider beginner-friendly is the Modern Witch Tarot. This one's relatively simple and comes with a little guidebook. This one takes almost the exact same imagery of the Rider-Waite structure, but makes it, in my opinion, more inclusive and modernized. I dropped the 10 of Wands. Here's the 5 of Swords and the King of Cups. To me, this is like lovely because sometimes it'll have women on the major arcana. There aren't any like easily classifiable men, as I would say, just like cis-het men. I would say that it deviates more towards gender neutrality, especially on the more masculine cards. And it features people of all different colors, shapes, sizes. This is the Knight of Swords, one of my favorites. I personally love this deck. I also love it because it takes these traditional divinely masculine cards or divinely active cards and pictures a woman on them, which I love because that kind of masculine, feminine, and how they are tied to like cis-het men and women, or cis men and women. It comes with a guidebook and doesn't deviate super far away from traditional Rider-Waite structure, apart from changing the kind of imagery of the individuals on the deck. My next favorite is probably the Tarot of the Divine. If you have seen anything on my pages, I typically use this deck. This is what it looks like on the back. This is by Yoshiyoshitani, and this is one of my absolute favorite decks ever. I got it and I fell in love with it. I resonated with it so heavily. So what the Tarot of the Divine does a little different is it takes mythology and folklore from all different cultures and interprets them into the cards. This is the Eight of Swords, which is a folklore story from France. We have Anansi on the Wheel of Fortune. We have a story from Japan on the Moon. We have a North American story on the Eight of Wands. So on and so forth. This is a story from Brazil. I believe it's called Botanica on the Devil card. So for me, I not only love this deck because of its caring for the reader and its honesty, but I also love it because it actually helps me learn about different mythologies and folklores as I go along. I love pulling a card and being able to give a story to the client or to myself to explain the card further. I do consider this another deck that is beginner/intermediate because it does have extra levels of interpretation to it, but it does come with a little guidebook, which is in my bookshelf behind me. And one of the cards is La Llorona. We have Turtle Island on the King of Pentacles. We have Aztec stories, we have Roman gods, we have stories from Africa, stories from Asia. Literally every single continent you can think of is represented here. And because of that, it's just fallen directly into one of my favorite decks. Like, there's no way that I can do a reading without this deck, and to me that's what a good deck is. My other go-to is a strong intermediate deck, and that is the Darkwood Tarot. I got the Darkwood Tarot for Christmas, and I've been working with it since. This is what the backs look like. And it's a little bit more gothic in its imagery, which I don't mind. We got Temperance, the Hermit. We have a lot of major arcanas on the top. The reason I say intermediate is because it is a little bit intense. I typically use Darkwood for reading for someone's obstacles, and I also think it's really great for shadow work. This is the Page of Cups. It brings a little bit of like a fantastical imagery to it. One of my favorite cards is the Queen of Swords. It's very much stumbled into a forest and got lost with some scary tree trunks vibes. This is the Two of Pentacles. I don't even know if that makes sense. But it also is very much a card that doesn't cut corners. It's very brutally honest. It is one of my decks that I consider to be like borderline cruel in the way it reads. It doesn't really take into consideration the feelings. It rather tells you exactly what you need to hear. But because of that, I love it. And that's why I use it for typically the obstacles section rather than kind of the general energy sections in my readings. Because, you know, it's intense. But yeah, it comes with a like giant book that proposes shadow work, reversed cards, meanings, etc. And because of that, you probably could manage to get it as a beginner. But because of the intensity of the cards, I typically say intermediate. Another favorite, and I believe I also showed this deck in my last video as well, my last tarot video, is the Animal Totem Tarot. I've had this one for years. I've been using it for years, and it never gets old for me. I just have always used it. This one incorporates all different animals into the decks. My Chariot fell. The reason I love the Animal Totem is because it helps me for deity identification. It helps me kind of tie an animal to the cards. As you can see, we have the butterfly on the Knight of Cups. And this one is definitely a beginner intermediate. It comes with a full book that'll help you understand it. I believe it's like right behind me too. An amazing deck to work with. It's caring, it's honest, it allows room for more interpretation because of the cards and their structure. This is the Sun. We have the Empress as represented by a fun little sow. We have an idol representing the world. We have a crane representing justice, a firefly for the Ace of Wands, so on and so forth. There really isn't an animal that isn't covered in this deck, in my opinion. It goes far and wide, and I love that about it. But yeah, this has been a go-to deck for literally years, and I never get tired of using it. And even with my new decks, I will still sometimes pull out the Animal Totem Tarot just to clarify some things. Now we're getting into some of my newer decks. I have 3 here that I have become part of my everyday reading. I consider all of these advanced because of their deviations from the normal imagery of the Rider-Waite or normal structure of the Rider-Waite, or because they're literally in a different language, as is the case with Il Toloco Sopraffino, which is my Italian deck. This is handmade. It's Il Meneghero edition. Super expensive. I saved up for it. It's from Milano. Not only is the little box like absolutely adorable with the stamped Il Mondo world card on top that you can actually not pull off. For some reason I thought you could. But it's so easy to shuffle. It's so nice and small. This one is literally all in Italian and has a kind of traditional Italian structure, so it doesn't necessarily fall into Rider-Waite. It still has the court cards, the 1s through the 10s, but it doesn't have the same imagery as we would see in the Rider-Waite. For example, this is the 4 of Swords. This is the 4 of batons, or wands. This is Il Papa, or the Hierophant. So some of the major arcana look similar, but the minor arcana is all just symbols except for the court cards. There's no kind of imagery that we would see in Waite Smith. It's literally just like 4 cups. Il Giudizio, Justice. This is Caval di Spade, which is the Knight of Swords, and I'm still working on my pronunciation, so if you're Italian and you want to correct me, do it. Imperatrice, the Empress. I think it may also be, I believe it's the Empress. This is the Fandi Bastoni, the Page of Wands, or Bastoni. La Forza is the Strength card. This is the Death card. Absolutely nothing on it. La Torre is the Tower. And in here we have Il Diavolo, which is the Devil. So I use this primarily as a clarifying deck. I use it to connect with my ancestors. For me, it helps me just get closer to my heritage. And because of that, I love it. I find that it is ruthless in a lot of ways, but I love it because of that. Il Toloco Sopraffino is one of my favorites. I do kind of mumble my words a little bit, but moving on from there, I have the Brandy Tarot. If you saw my post on Instagram recently, you saw this deck alongside another one. I love the Brandy Tarot. So this one you could consider an intermediate because it comes with a guidebook. However, the reason I say advanced is because there's so much to unpack with the imagery and so much to unpack with each card that I feel like you need to have a basic understanding, or at least a semi-intermediate understanding of the cards and all they can represent in order to use it. That doesn't mean that if you're not a beginner or intermediate you can't get it. That's just my opinion. You have the 6 of Cups, which is happiness. You have the World. And this deck is completely focused on North American plants and animals and giving them representation, and it gives a portion of the profits from the deck to Indigenous organizations. I will be linking every single deck that I talk about here below and where you can get it. So in this deck as well, they change it from the pentacles to the roots, the wands to the feathers, the swords to the arrows, and the cups to the horns. So along with this kind of really vivid, beautiful imagery and unpacking and interpretation with each card, you're also dealing with a change in structure. So you may pull the feathers and think arrows, like I did, but no, they're wands. So this would be the 6 of Wands card. And I think that in general, it's probably one of my favorite decks. It has this lovely gold trim. As I get further into animism, I find myself more and more drawn to not only decks representing my ancestors, but decks representing the wildlife around me. And that's partially why I get pulled to the Brandy Tarot, is because it's genuinely just the land that I live on and a way to honor it and understand it even further as I work through animism and explore animism more. It also comes in this amazing lethal black deck. My last deck that I've been using recently was sent to me as a review copy, and it's called the Botanica Tarot. As you can see, it's absolutely gorgeous. I have the Herbalist edition. I will link this down below as well. I'm gonna pull this out. It has a nice little slide box. This one I say advanced because it doesn't have any structure. Well, it has the structure of the Rider-Waite, but instead of having kind of what we would consider words with the major arcana, it just has symbols on the top. It does come with a little paper guidebook. I've been reading about 7 years and I'm still using the guidebook because it is all about the language of flowers. This is the moon. We have, I believe this is the, I don't know what this is. Hold on. See? Look at that. Frankie using a little guidebook. The Hermit. There we go. So this is the Hermit. Winter Cherry. The Four of Cups. The Ten of Swords. So on and so forth. And each one actually breaks down why that was chosen, the plant and or flower that is on the card and the meaning behind it. So if you look in here, just let's look at a random card. Let's say it's the Seven of Swords. The one chosen for this is Foxglove. In Norse mythology, foxes wear these flowers around their necks to signal to each other that there is danger nearby. It is thought that mysterious powers are given to those who wear them, and the swords on the card are Viking narrow sea axes. There's just so much to interpret here. Not only is it such a vivid, beautiful deck with amazing imagery, and it's so clearly well thought out and well researched, but it's amazing to work with. There's just so much interpretation and so many ways to work with it with a client or with yourself. It's really great for connecting with spirits and or divine guides. If they have a flower that they're associated with, you can use that just like the animals. Along with that, you have the major arcana there and different gods represented by that. So like I said, I rate this as advanced. One of my absolute favorites, along with my Italian deck, the Brandy Tarot, the Line Defined. I mean, honestly, all the decks that I showed have a special place in my heart because I've either been using them and they've been incredibly reliable, or I've just been using them for so long that I can't imagine working without them. I am planning on selling a few of my old decks on my store at some point because I'm getting ready to move. I hope that within this fun little video you found a deck that inspires you or that you love. Like I said, I will link all the tarot decks below. I'm also live streaming this Thursday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is tomorrow when you guys will be seeing this. This goes up on Monday, and you may get some extra footage on Friday, or you can just watch the live stream on Friday because it's going to be up. And we're just going to be hanging out, chilling, seeing how this live stream things goes. Maybe we'll react to a couple things. Maybe we'll, you know, chill and see what's going on. But anyways, I'm really excited to see you guys and to connect with you guys and to talk with you guys. And I'm really excited for you to see this video. If you watch through the whole video, you already know how I feel about you. I love you. If you want, you can like, subscribe, turn the bell on, but no pressure. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.